don't know, it's just so lavish, like with what they want with it. Brights Grove is a very small community. They already have an existing library there. I think libraries are going to be a thing of the past before we know it.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
So with that said, let's talk about the third item on this, like we'll just call it the wish list. The Sarnia wish list is in Brights Grove. There's an existing library, and it's a historical site. And remind me why it's a historical site, because I didn't know this before. I'm not from Brights Grove, so I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's the cottage for John Labatt, the famous brewer of beer.
Yeah. Oh, so we got to keep that alive, right?
Well, it's just a historical home, right? It's very beautiful, and it's got your Victorian era kind of architecture, and it's a really beautiful little spot. Like I highly recommend a visit to go see it sometime.
Yeah.
Although this part of our discussion today will be
right. So let's break down some of the details.
Controversy.
So, yeah. Well, there's a lot of passionate discussion happening on my group and the different groups in Sarnia, and so a lot of people care about it, and so much so that there's been citizens putting their money where their mouths are, like actually stepping up and saying, "Hey, we'll take care of some of the costs," and they've raised. Currently, it's at $520,000, but it's still increasing, and so that's kind of cool. If I'm being honest, like good on them for doing that. And so this is my understanding. We're gonna give you some numbers. So it's estimated to cost $8 to $10 million. And I don't know how long a time period. Is that the 10-year plan? I think that was fitting into the 10-year.
I think so. We're 5 years into the start of this project, but started in 2020. And so with like another comment that I have is look at how long it takes for these people to do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
because this isn't like building a brand new, like working off land that hadn't been worked on. This is adding to the existing building.
Which is, I guess, is another holdup, right? Because it's a historical building, so ergo there's more red tape, more rules and regulations.
Yeah.
But 5 years for this, like, no wonder why Canada is in such a slum.
Right.
We can't get housing for people for this. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like the city hall should give their head a shake. Like we should have had a yes or no about this, but like within a year of the project.
Yeah.
Like why? I don't know. It's aggravating.
Yeah. So there's already been $4 million given by the city, and Mayor Mike Bradley removed the 2026 $2.6 million budget for it. So, and this is what this whole controversy is going to be about, and what we're going to find out tomorrow is kind of the fate of this whole project. And I was just researching the reasons that Bradley gave. See if I can find it. Okay, yeah, so here it is. It says, the main reasons cited for the removal by the mayor, because he used his strong mayor powers, I believe, to take this off the table.
Yep.
So number one was need for clearly defined project parameters. Mayor Bradley stated that clearly defined project parameters are needed before committing further funds. Number two, uncertainty over federal funding. A potential $4.5 million federal grant, which had been announced in April of this year, was later rejected because the project did not meet net zero requirements. Bradley cited this change in grant status as a reason to reallocate the city funds to other immediate maintenance needs and to help reduce taxes. There's two more. So the next one is concerns about cost control. The mayor and some city staff expressed concerns regarding cost control and project management, noting issues such as an outstanding architect's invoice and the project's increasing complexity and cost over the years. And so just quickly, we'll talk about that architect invoice, which was $212,000. And they actually just recently offered to cut it in half, which is, I think, 106, right? That's correct math. Yeah. And so let me jump back there. The last one was alternative use of funds. The mayor suggested that the city funds earmarked for the library could be better allocated to immediate maintenance needs of existing infrastructure.
Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day, if I would say. So this whole project is wishy-washy. So even some of the demands that they have, or some of the wants, or not even the needs, the wants that they have with it, like they literally want to build trees into the building.
Really?
Yeah. If you look at like the markup or the imagery of the building, they literally want to do that. This is just some, I don't know, it's just so lavish, like with what they want with it. There already is a library there. Brights Grove is a very small community. They already have an existing library there.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say the need for libraries altogether in our society is dwindling. I think libraries are going to be a thing of the past before we know it.
It's kind of like Blockbuster, you think?
Extremely like Blockbuster. I'm not knocking books. I love books.
Yeah.
Buy Brandon's book. It's a great book.
There you go.
Absolutely love it. But let's think about it here. So I'm in the neighborhood of the library. I walk by it all the time.
Yeah.
And I see very dwindling, like people aren't rushing at the door there. It might even make more sense to start doing some forward thinking, and maybe we could use allocated library funds in the sense of a government subsidy on, say, personal internet for people of low income, or maybe a subsidy on equipment for people of low income. Like we already have all of the information at our fingertips that you could possibly want.
Yeah.
Every book that has ever been written or that is at your library is already in your phone. We don't have the need to maintain such massive buildings anymore just to store books. And another thing that I've noticed is libraries have basically neutered their book stock. There's not the amount of books that you used to see in there. They used to hold on to everything, which is what you call a library, right? Like a big collection of books. Well, they've downsized the collection of books that they've had. And it's just absolutely it's starting to be absurd. Like, why do we need this?
Let me push back a little bit so we have some interesting discussion here. Do you think there's something to the argument of, well, we need to step away from this digital age because it's consumed us so much, and kids, they need access to the old ways of, physical copied books. And so we shouldn't be taking away things like this. Like this is, taking us a step backwards if we give in to the modernization of education. What would you say to something like that?
I would say you can still get a copy of what's the book called? If you give a mouse a cookie, you can still get a copy of that on your iPad, which your kid is probably more drawn to anyway than any physical copybook. Another thing, use bookstores. You could buy any book that you could possibly want for a fraction of the price. It's extremely accessible. If you're so inclined, you could start a neighborhood book swap. There's all kinds of things.
There's a lot of those. My neighborhood has them.
Yeah. Like even like the little book library nooks that people put. Like,
those are great.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that's a really good idea.
It's free.
And it's a great way to like interact with your community too. Because a lot of people have them on their front lawns. And so you're kind of forced to be on the property and you say, hey, hello. And you get to know your neighbors a bit. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, like the library that we have, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like it's extremely expensive to run that as far as staffing and everything else goes. I'm just saying within the next 20 years, having a library is going to be a moot point.
Yeah.
And that we can make information way more accessible to people for a fraction of the price.
Yeah. So I brought this up on our Facebook page if you're not there. So I always say it's still my page, but I've stepped away for the time being, let my moderators handle it while we do focus on the show. But if you're not there, you're missing out on some great conversation at Turning Point Sarnia. Join the group. You'll have a good time as long as you behave yourself. But no, I was talking to people about this, and one of the things I brought up is, in regards to, what were you just talking about?
Library is irrelevant in the next 20 years.
Yeah, there's something specific about, in regards to the kids. Yeah, because I was saying how the public schools have libraries. Right?
Yeah.
So your kids have access to books. And I don't know of any school, maybe there is schools that don't have libraries, but for the most part, I think most public schools have libraries. And so when I said that, the reply I got back was, well, that's not for all the adults. What do the adults do? And I said, well, what about Google? Like, what about Amazon? Like, what about these physical stores that you could go to? And the more I was talking to this person, they were arguing for like a community-based hub where you could support one another, learn from one another. And, basically he was starting to describe church. How ironic, because we love talking about Christianity. We love talking about the need for it in our society. And hey, we just talked about how their community stepped up and raised, what was it, $520,000?
Yeah, we can call that $500,000, right?
Yeah, man. Y'all should just go to church, y'all. If you want that community, it's a great, great thing to be a part of. And they would have, these types of things where you collect books and give access of these books to kids and food programs and all these community-driven efforts. I think that's probably a better goal too, because we're talking about preserving our heritage, right?
Yeah.
With these buildings, a lot of these church buildings we're putting up for sale and like tearing down. Like, why don't we work and fight harder to protect and preserve these Canadian values that we built this country on? I think that'd be kind of a more noble and worthwhile goal.
Yeah, we do have so many churches in this town that, have. I think that there is a lot of people that have stepped away from the church in many years. And yes, there are some of these buildings that would be wonderful if we could preserve them and that we could do something with. And that if you did have a community of people who did agree to put all that money together, like $500,000 is a lot of money, you could definitely preserve some of these buildings.
Yeah.
As long as they have a function, right? It's got to have a reason.
Yeah.
And it can't just be because it's an old church. I really love old stuff. I'm a history nut, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, I really want to see things have like a functionality to them.
Yeah.
And if the church doesn't have a functionality to it, then like not like all churches I'm saying, but I'm saying like churches that no longer have congregants. That not everybody is like a United Methodist and not everybody is a Anglican churchgoer, right? Some of these things are becoming like kind of past dated. I think that we're going to see a different Christianity in the future, and there will be churches that are molded to that. Yeah. I know so many community-based churches that just work based off of like a rented space, for example, and that their members do get together and they do build churches.
Yeah.
Right. So you could even take like say an old Anglican church and you could put like different Christianity in that church.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be glued to one denomination.
No, it doesn't. Why should it?
And to further the conversation that I was having with this person, he was worried that people would be proselytized. He says a public library doesn't proselytize people. And my response was, what's wrong with being proselytized to good ideas?
You've never been to like a church spaghetti dinner? They're
awesome.
You don't get what's the word you're using there? Sorry?
Proselytize. Like try to convert people to your way of thinking and your way of life. Me as a Christian, that's not my goal. My goal is like in anything in life, let's say if I went and saw a really good movie and I really enjoyed it, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to tell Brendan about it. Like, you should go see that movie, right?
Yeah.
And so we get excited about all kinds of things in our life. I get excited about Jesus and I can't shut up about him, but that doesn't mean you need to be, force fed it. Like, I'm going to be patient with you and I'm not going to, treat you any different if you say, hey, you know what? I don't think there's enough evidence for it. And I love talking about those types of things. But I think that's a beautiful, starting point for trying to reach the goal of community, is being open. And I think the church is a great place to do it. Because if anything, I don't think Christianity should be afraid of questions, of objections.
No.
God can handle your questions and objections. I don't care if you doubt. I don't care if you don't think there's enough evidence.
There's been questions about it since day one.
Yeah, bring your question. Come as you are, but understand that if you do encounter the real God of the universe, he's going to radically change you from the inside out.
That's so beautifully put. And there is so many people who do rent out like a church space, like a hall at a church, or like there's so many community functions of a church. Like it's astounding, like what you could do with it.
Well, I've experienced, like growing up in the church, I've experienced going through loss and like tragedy. Guess who was there just taking care of us every step of the way? Individuals who claimed to submit their lives to Christ, saying, God, use me. I'm a temple of the Holy Spirit. You work inside me to be a blessing to others. So I had a bunch of individuals that said that, and they poured into my life. And they showed up with meals. They showed up with love. They showed up with conversation and comfort and all that stuff. I can't even describe how meaningful and beautiful it is until you go through it. So I think everybody deserves something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.